like to welcome everyone here this afternoon. We thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be a part of the business of the city. Would like to start out by asking that we could add to tonight's agenda. We noticed that the public commentary was left off. That was not done purposefully. And so if I could have a motion to add number 6A, and we'll put that right under the city attorney's report, and that would be public commentary where anyone may speak on any subject they wish. May I have a motion, please?
So second. Oh my goodness.
There's been a motion and a second. Any disagreement or any comments? Okay, Ms. Gaynor, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, so we will have public commentary. I know you're all glad about that. Moving on to item number 3, which is the mayor's report. I had several meetings this week. I did meet with officials from FEMA and also from our consultants, Tetra Tech. Also met with the city manager several times. I've met with many residents this week for various reasons. Did an interview with one who's working on a doctorate degree and wanted to talk with someone about city leadership issues. And I met with people from the Bell Circle area about the flooding issues there. Had a conversation with some people about some cemetery questions, and so it's been just a variety of meetings with residents. I am pleased to announce that at our next commission meeting, which will be the 4th Tuesday of this month, using our Hurricane Michael Relief Trust Fund that the city set up shortly after the hurricane with the help of Holland and Knight Legal Services from Jacksonville, we will be awarding another $40,000 to Lynnhaven residents, $1,000 grants to families who are in need. So I'm very, very excited about that. So I think we should give ourselves a hand for the generosity of the city. That will be a great time. And I wanted to also apologize that this week I will not be able to attend our concert of the spring concert series, nor will I be here for the cleanup day on the 13th, which is this Saturday. I've been at all the others. But this Saturday we'll have First United Methodist Church teaming with St. John's Catholic Church and the city to have a really huge cleanup day that we'll be meeting right here at Lynnhaven Elementary School to start that day off at 7:30 on Saturday. We've had very successful days. We've picked up close to 100,000 pounds of trash on each of the days that we've met, with many fewer volunteers than we're going to have this Saturday. My husband and I'll be traveling over to Jacksonville. Our little granddaughter's having surgery this week, and so that's where we'll be. So I do apologize that I won't be here. I also met with Doug Hadaway this week. He is the project manager for the Eco Park that we are having donated to us through the BP oil spill monies, the restore funds. And we had a really good meeting, and we'll be putting some items about that meeting on the next agenda and talking more about them. I also met with John Mazik about the bond issue for the city that we are considering, the $30 million in bonds to help us defray our debris bill, which if you've been here for the other meetings, you know that our debris bill is in excess of our entire city budget. And so we're looking for the most economical way that we can have money available to us while we're waiting for FEMA to reimburse. So we'll be talking about that. And I think that's all that I have for the mayor's report, except I do have one other item. If you'll excuse me, I'm reading it from my phone. I don't have it typed. But this is in regard to our acting city manager, Vicki Gaynor. And as I read this, if the commission could just sort of consider what I'm saying, and I hope that I would gain a motion at the end with some commentary after. The role of acting city manager is not an easy position for anyone to accept, especially in the times that we're in right now, or be successful at even in the best of times. But in this current climate, post-Hurricane Michael, this position is considerably more difficult. Vicki Gaynor, since being selected as the acting city manager, has worked extended, tedious hours for the benefit of this city and its residents on a vast array of day-to-day issues which the city faces, which includes many significant post-Hurricane Michael recovery topics. Ms. Gaynor did not have to accept this title and the added responsibility. However, she did so with enthusiasm because she knew the city needed her knowledge, abilities, and strong work ethic. Since being named the acting city manager, I've personally witnessed Mrs. Gaynor take on this immense day-to-day task required of her as acting city manager, and in doing so, she has represented our city and its residents with outstanding class and dignity. After careful review of this matter and the issues involved, I believe that it is appropriate to urge the Commission to consider providing Ms. Gaynor a 15% raise in her monthly salary, along with the car allowance in the same amount as the previous city manager of $450 during the period of time that Ms. Gaynor serves the city as acting city manager. One thing that I would mention, that we no longer employ a city manager, and so that salary is not being paid at the present time. And also Ms. Gaynor's current salary in comparison is at the lower end of all the other department heads of the city. So she has much more responsibility than when she was asked to do this. So if I could entertain a motion or discussion from the Commission.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments?
Mayor, yes ma'am, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Just real quick, I'd just like to ask the city attorney, is this gonna be a contract thing? Is this gonna be, any kind of, I know it's not your area of expertise, HR, but I'm just wanna make sure we're doing it right. Cause I'm all for it, obviously.
We can certainly reduce this to writing based off the motion, but the city manager, the only individuals that can grant this to the city manager, acting city manager, would be this commission.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other comments or questions from the Commission? Any from the public? There appear to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so it stands approved, and congratulations, Ms. Gaynor, it's well deserved. At this time, I would like to move to the Commissioners' reports, item number 4, and I would start with Commissioner Tender.
Thank you, Mayor. This last couple of weeks, I have probably received more concerns from citizens than I have since the hurricane. And they have involved many things. One of the items that has been brought to me over and over is about debris that these residents that came to speak to me said that was there before our final pickup, and it's still sitting there. It's a big issue. I passed them on to Ms. Gaynor, and I think she's taking care of those. The other thing that I just left an hour-and-a-half meeting about, and you can tell, I'm still trying to digest this meeting. I mean, it's one of those hair-raising things. But anyway, hour-and-a-half meeting about all the speeding is going on in the country club that we need to curtail. And I've already spoke with Chief Ramey, and I stuck my neck out and made a promise, and he says that he will keep that promise for me. It's great to see everybody turning out for voting, early voting this week. I see people just constantly going. Today especially was much better than yesterday. I had a report and dealt with a resident that she believes she has a sinkhole in the country club, and I think we went and took care of that. I don't know the results of that outcome yet. And those are basically the basics that I've been dealing with, and I think we're getting them all straightened out. And the largest complaint that I've dealt with in the last 2 weeks is over our inspections for homes and people after the storm. And I have got an item 11 there that I will be addressing it specifically with figures and to inform all you where we are with that. And thank you, Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Commissioner Russell?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a rather lengthy report because I've obviously been busy for the last couple of weeks. First, I attended the task force meeting on the 28th, and I still question some of the reasonings for the task force. But I did come away from that meeting knowing that the governor has a program for waiving or deferring our portion of the FEMA reimbursement. I brought that application back to the city manager, and she's working on that as we speak to see if we can get a waiver or deferment for our percentage that we're going to have to pay, which, if I don't get anything else out of the task force, that's pretty big in itself. I've also asked the city manager to do a feasibility study for us to have underground utilities. I realize that's going to be an expense to the city But, the state legislation is looking at mandating it, so it's something we need to, I think, maybe get out in front of. I know Panama City Beach is already requiring it, so at a minimum, I think we need to look at least all new construction, at least having underground drops from the road to the house. Of course, I would love to see all our utilities go underground. I know that's gonna be an expense, but I think in recovery for the next storm, it will make us a lot faster on our recovery. So that, I'm gonna keep pushing for that until I get numbers to determine what it's gonna cost. And obviously, if it comes back and it's ridiculous, we may have to sit down and discuss it. Let's see, I've also asked for a list of the paved roads, and I've got a couple of questions for Bobby, that I'll get with him later. I didn't get a chance to talk to him today. So I'm reviewing that list, trying to figure out some of the roads that I question whether they've been paved or not. They're not on the list to be paved, but I think they need to be paved. As far as the cleanup Saturday, I was fortunate enough to be able to get Mosley football team to come out and help with the cleanup Saturday. And Beef O'Brady's has volunteered to feed everybody Saturday for lunch. So that's going to be a good thing for the cleanup Saturday. Let's see, what else do I've got? A few more things, and I apologize for being so long tonight. I usually try to keep it quick. Let's see, I also asked for an analysis of bringing the building inspections back into the city. This is a discussion I've had with Michael, the previous city manager, several times, and I think y'all know I run an inspection service. So I've been on, I don't know, 200 or 300 routes since Hurricane Michael, and I questioned some of the inspection that have gone on. So I look forward to our discussion when we get to that item. Let's see, also attended the first canvassing board meeting on April the 3rd, and was fortunate enough and really appreciate it. Commissioner Tender saw fit to nominate me as your canvassing board chairman for this election. And I want to appreciate you for having that confidence in me, and look forward to it. Committee is going to be made up of me, Judy, and obviously Mark Anderson will be on the committee as well. Let's see. I also have a concern about the city, and I've asked the city manager to look into it and see where we need to be and how we need to do this. But I think it's time we started doing an assessment of derelict and vacant houses and buildings. Sandy's Feed and Seed, Bayside Lumber, those buildings have been empty for 7 months now, and it doesn't look like anything's been done with them. We have a house on 14th Court that is in the process of falling, and the tenants or the people beside it say there's nobody been in the house for years. I don't want to end up, like the outskirts of New Orleans after Katrina, and 3 or 4 years later we still have vacant buildings that haven't been touched. So I think the city's going to have to be proactive and get out in front of this, and at least start doing an analysis, figuring out which buildings are going to have to be demolished, and reaching out to the homeowners and kind of pushing them to make a decision. That's actually all I got. And again, I apologize for being so long, but I've been busy this week, so thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, also met with the city manager, and I'm glad to see that we're making some monetary impacts for her, because she is, I think, doing a great job. I also met with the bond folks. I have gotten a few calls about the parks, when can we rent the parks again, especially Sheffield Park. So I've passed them on to David. And then also some concerns about the ditches and creeks. I think that big rain made everybody think a little bit about that. So I know we've got contracts in the works for that. And then let's see. Also getting, same as Commissioner Tender, I've gotten a few calls on saying that they've gotten the debris out there. I'll need to follow up with the city manager on the calls that I've got. And then also about putting C&D in the business dumpsters. So putting it in bags and then putting it in the business dumpsters. So I don't know how we're handling that. So, and I hadn't had a chance to get with her on that, but I'll follow over that. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Barnes?
Yes, ma'am. I attended the I attended the funeral of Commissioner Roger Shadd. You know, Commissioner Shadd served as a commissioner here for 20 years. He was a pillar in the community, had a very beautiful service, and he definitely will be sorely missed. So, you know, we're going to wish his family, they want to move back to Lynnhaven, and so the family thank Lynnhaven for everything he's done for Roger. I've also gotten some concerns about the debris that has not been picked up. I know there's a lot that's out there, but there are some citizens that are complaining about it. I know I've had some citizens specifically complain about the McCain Creek over in the Mort Highlands area, where a lot of the trees have fallen into the creek, and it's keeping the water from passing through, and wanted to know what strategies that the city will have in getting that cleaned up. And of course, that will be left up to the new commission. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. And several commissioners did mention the ditches and the waterways, and so I'll go back just for a moment to Mayor's report when I was talking about the meetings with FEMA, and we did address that, the cleaning of these larger waterways in our meeting that we had this week, and also provided FEMA with video and photographs of how these areas look this week, recent photographs, so that they could wrap their eyes. And it's hard sometimes to hear a description of how a neighborhood looks during rain, but sometimes when you see the actual photographs. So we had a very productive meeting with FEMA, and they are looking at working with us on getting people in here to help us do that and helping us to get those costs reimbursed as well for the city. So that is moving forward for those, with those concerns about the flooding, because everyone is concerned, obviously. So we'll move now to our city manager's report, and Ms. Gaynor.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a couple of presentations today we'd like to make. And first, I'd like to recognize 2 employees. There will be Employee of the Month, and then Employee and Supervisor of the Month. And one of these employees, we actually were supposed to do this before the storm, and we'd be remiss if we did not make sure that we recognize this employee along with all of the work that he has done. So I'm going to ask first Acting Chief Ricky Ramey to come up, and then after that, Director of Public Works, Bobby Baker.
Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. This was actually from September 2018. Come on over. Ray Gates was and still is our communications manager, and he also took over as the administrator to fill, so he has dual roles and dual responsibilities, and he's done an excellent job. And
Excuse me, Chief, could you use the microphone in the center so everybody can hear? Thank you very much. It's kind of an important moment. So.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now? I thought I spoke very loud. But anyway, so Ray took on dual responsibilities, and even after the storm has performed to such a very high standard. So I want to award you the Employee of the Month from September 2018. And then this nomination actually comes from the department heads. We all vote on the Employee of the Quarter, and it's the Supervisor of the Month, presented to Raymond Gates in recognition of your outstanding performance, productivity, and dedicated service, March 2019. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
This is David Saltaro. He's been with the city now 18 years, and he's been working for the Stormwater and Street Department the entire time he's been here. David originally came from us from the military. He's retired military, Air Force of 20 years, so he's got a lot of experience. He's been great at teaching the values to the younger workers and keeping the older workers on the straight too. But David has also been called in numerous times. He's our Spanish interpreter to the citizens. So there's been numerous times he's had to come in where somebody just can't speak English, we don't understand him. This is our guy. So, and the citizens really appreciate that when he does come in to do that for us. So, and as far as dedication and trust, I've got the greatest faith in David. So on behalf of the city, we appreciate all you do. Thank you for your service in the military. recognition for Employee of the Month.
Also, Mayor, we know that there are 2 commissioners that will be stepping down after this election, and we just want to recognize these 2 commissioners. So I will ask that Commissioner Friend come up first, and we.
On behalf of the city of Lynnhaven, this key to the city is presented to Commissioner Rodney Friend by Mayor Margot Anderson in appreciation of your 8 years of service on the Board of Commissioners and your commitment to the city of Lynnhaven.
And Mayor?
Of course. I mean, I'm a politician, you gotta say something, you know what I'm saying? No, honestly, I do, this is a surprise. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, but I would like to take the opportunity just to say thank you so much for the opportunity. I want to thank God first for the opportunity. I want to thank my wife and my family for support over the years, but really want to thank the residents of Lynnhaven for trusting me and allowing me to serve you. I want to thank I really want to thank the employees of Lynnhaven, because what you get in, you learn that the guys that work so hard day in and day out, when you get the phone calls and you ask them and they answer your questions, it's really an honor to be able to work with them. And also want to thank the commission for serving. It's a commitment to serve. And even though we don't always agree, which I think is actually a good thing, it's truly an honor to serve, and it's been an honor to serve you all. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, now we'll ask Commissioner Barnes if you'll step forward.
On behalf of the city of Lynnhaven, this key to the city is presented to Antonius G. Barnes by Mayor Margot Anderson in appreciation for your 23 years of service on the Board of Commissioners and your commitment to the city of Lynnhaven. Thank you.
And Mayor, last,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to see if both of these commissioners have served many years here for the city, so I was wondering if we could just stand and give a round of applause. Thank you.
is Amy to come up with you as well?
Absolutely, if she will. I tried to drag her up here.
First of all, before I make the presentation, I would like to present this check on behalf of the Marshall brothers and Matt Marshall and his lovely wife Amy Lee to the Lynnhaven Police Department in the amount of $15,000. This is a very special plaque, and I just wanted to call attention to the fact that this was the check for $15,000, but just a short while ago, he also handed us a check on behalf of his family for $25,000 to our Hurricane Relief Fund. So as I said earlier in the meeting, in 2 weeks we'll be able to present 40 more families with $1,000 each to help defray the costs that people are experiencing right now. So thank you. Mayor Margot Anderson presents this key to the city of Lynnhaven, Florida on behalf of the residents of the city to Matt Marshall for his generous donation of $25,000 to the city of Lynnhaven Hurricane Michael Relief Fund Incorporated and $15,000 for the Lynnhaven Police Department's Matt Reamer K-9 unit in the aftermath of Hurricane Michael, which made landfall in the Panhandle of Florida October 10th, 2018.
If I could just say just a couple of words. Tough deal, man. I tell you what, the last 6 months has been rough. I don't care who you are. You know, everybody's talking about Cat 4, Cat 5. I don't know about y'all, but it was Cat 5 at my house. It wasn't a Cat 4. But, you know, I was thinking about Ricky and the police force. And, you know, I thought, you know, what's the most important thing you can show a police officer? And I thought respect. You know, those guys, I've got friends on the force, and the issues that they deal with day in and day out, I don't know, it's like those guys are in a jungle sometime and we're kind of over here on our preserve and they're just taking care of us. So really appreciate Ricky and the force, and I hope those dogs will keep us safer. I appreciate it.
And there, last but surely not least, is Laura Rouse. Laura put together some shirts, and she sold those shirts, and they were 850 shirts, and donated all the funds that she sold from her shirts to the police department. So we'll ask if Laura, if you're here, if you'll come and stand and present to our police department.
Be the one talking. Okay. Just, I designed these shirts to show my support for the city of Lynnhaven, something that was unique for us, which was our zip code 32444. And, just something to keep me busy and preoccupied because of all the mess after the storm. And so I was trying to decide what to do with the proceeds from it. And so I split it between the Lynnhaven Police Department, Lynnhaven Fire Department. They just meant a lot to me personally to help make us feel safe after the storm. It was very unsettling for everybody, and I know that we talk about the annoying sirens and helicopters that we heard, but at the same time, they offered a lot of security for us to help us feel safe and know that they were out there helping us. And so tonight I would like to present a check for $500 to the city of Lynnhaven Police Department and $500 for the fire department as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lori. And can I ask, do you still have those shirts for sale for the public if they are interested?
I have a few left. You can contact me. I have some that I was, just because it was hard to meet up with everybody, so I had some in a booth that I was selling, and I have some in my car. I'm not sure if I'll place another order. It just depends on, how much support I have from everybody. If I need more shirts, then I can order them. This is long sleeve, and I also have short sleeve as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I know it's been a little bit of a long report, but these are so worth it. When these things happen to the city of Lynnhaven, it shows us that people still care about us and care about our recovery to all the efforts with Hurricane Michael. So, another thing that I want to make sure that we know about is that Porter Park we've begun the project at Porter Park construction. That money was through Restore Grant. And so today, some of the construction began, and we are going to be closing part of that area just to make sure everyone is safe. The boat ramp will still be available, but the park and the other side of it will be closed off just for safety reasons. So we ask you to be patient with us while we get that up and going. It's going to be beautiful once we finish it. Spring concert series is going to begin this Friday at 6 p.m. and we invite you all to come out and enjoy every week of spring concert series. Of course, you can hear that I've been pretty busy meeting with all of the commissioners, and I had a really, really long list from Commissioner Russell, as you can probably tell, of all the things that I've done for him in the past week, and meeting with FEMA and some of the other agencies. We are working hard for you, and we hope that you be patient with us as we go through this time and do the things that we know are going to be a blessing to the city of Lynnhaven.
Thank you so much. And then that brings us to the added item tonight, item 6A. This is public commentary. And if you are familiar with our meetings, you'll know that as we go through the agenda, you'll have an opportunity as we speak on each item if you have something about that particular item. But if you'd like to speak now, if you don't want to stay for the whole meeting, or if you've got an item that you'd like to talk about that is not included on the agenda, you're welcome to do so. Please limit your remarks to a 3-minute time to give everyone an opportunity to speak. If you need additional time for some prepared reason, please let me know. Anyone? Yes. I see just a bunch of hands there in the middle. Somebody stand up. Okay, thank you. And if you can just speak directly into the microphone because the meetings are recorded. Okay, thank you.
David Cooley, 206 George Avenue. Just a couple of issues. Are we gonna do an audit, after our city manager left, are we gonna do an audit for like the last year and a half or so we can see where the money has gone? That's question number one. Number two, I guess I'm concerned, I know there's a referendum going around right now for changing the charter. If the referendum doesn't happen, my question is, if we do hire another city manager, what checks and balances are we gonna put in place to keep control of the city manager?
Okay, if I could address your first question first, and then if anyone else wants to say something, you're certainly welcome to. From the moment that I became the mayor of the city in 2015, I had asked for an audit because I wanted to start with a clean slate, and I've also asked for a change in accounting services because we had the same auditing service for over 20 years. And so that is a concern of mine as well. I cannot comment about an audit right now because there is still a criminal investigation active going on, as much as I would like to comment, but I can tell you that I would pursue that. But that's all I can say at this point. The second thing that you asked about, city manager referendum, this is something that I'm asking for myself. I would like to wait until we get to the point on the agenda tonight when we're talking about hiring of the new city manager to talk about that. But I would clarify just a couple of things before we get there. I had brought up several weeks ago that I would be interested in, instead of having a city manager, we have a city manager council form of government right now. That is what the majority of Florida cities do, but many cities still have a council strong mayor. What that basically means is that your mayor has more authority than the city manager. In other words, the elected person has the power over the budget. Similar to the school superintendent who is elected and has power over that budget. You still have a school board who controls his spending like you have a council who would control the mayor. I'll say some more about that. What I am actively doing right now is trying to get a petition signed by 10% of Lynnhaven's registered voters. I'll have to have that many signatures, and once that's done, then a referendum ballot could be offered, but not until the signature. So that's what's in the process right now. Once we get to that item on the agenda tonight, I have some more comments that I'd like to make at that time.
Yeah, I guess the whole issue is just control, because I've seen over the last year and a half, a lot of contracts that have been given out without bids, and that really concerns me. You know, I mean,
again, please do not mistake my silence for unconcern. It's just as I said, there's an active criminal investigation, and I cannot say a word right now.
okay.
But I thank you for the concern, and it's mine as well. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Yes, Mr. Walker?
Didn't even see me, but you knew who it was.
Well, I actually had seen you before, so I knew you were sitting there.
Good evening, Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Two questions.
Yes.
First question, your little fund that you have for the citizens of the town.
The Hurricane Relief Fund.
Yes, hurricane. That was set up with two people in charge. One of them was the city manager.
No, no. That fund is a hurricane relief fund. It has a board. The city manager has no control over that fund at all. This board does.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. Thank you for
You're welcome.
clarifying that. I appreciate that. So therefore, that's the $1,000. Okay, all right. The second thing is, back in the days when we were looking into audits, and a couple of people were shaking in their boots and didn't like that term. Commissioner mentioned the word forensic, and then I got to learn the difference between forensic and audit. That was applied by Mr. Commissioner Friend. It was very interesting. I don't, from my observation and the phraseology, I don't believe we should be looking at an audit, because one of our problems was an audit. That audit was done by the same company that did everything for 17 years. And all they did was look at money in, money out. They did not look at, was it correct? Mrs. Tinder was correct in asking for a forensic, and you are perfectly right on line. Anybody that takes an election office would like to know where they're starting from, and they'd like to get a clean slate so they know that they don't have to worry about what went on before. So I would suggest strongly that you get the phraseology, forensic and audit, separate those two to protect yourselves as we go in the future, because you can't talk about most of it anyway. But my suggestion is, look at the forensic portion of it.
And I would encourage you to go back and look at the first meetings in 2015 at the comments that I made about that. And so I think we're on the same page, but again, I can't speak to it
Right.
on the current situation.
Mayor,
Thank you, sir. Yes, Commissioner Russell, please.
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to comment on Richard Walker's comments. Just for the record, I would be fully in support of you wanting an audit at this point. I would not have a problem with it at all.
Thank you.
Second thing is I'd like to state, I think, and Mr. Walker can correct me if I'm mistaken, I think he may be referring to our review process where we had the city manager and Vicky reviewing applications. That was the question you were having?
That is correct.
Yeah, so I think he was questioning who's gonna review the applications now that,
Yes.
thank you.
Leon mentioned that maybe a citizen could get involved in that. That is exactly what I was after.
Well, I did not understand your question. I thought you were asking
Maybe I
about the
phrased it
disbursement. The way I understood your question, you were asking if he had power over the funds, not the application process. Okay, okay. I got the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Mr. Miller.
1508 Mississippi Avenue. I know there's a lot of things on the burner, as such as picking up and this and that. But I know a while back, I think the order was clear that turn signal there on 17th Street and 77 was okay. Is it gonna start working, because it's getting difficult every day getting out and people getting angry because two cars can only turn at a time and you're sitting in a long line there by credit union. Where do we stand on that now?
I appreciate those concerns, Mr. Miller, and again, as always, it's an, Florida Department of Transportation issue with those lights. I do not know, where we stand with that at this moment, but we can certainly find out for you quickly. Thank you. Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could just go back to the audit real quick, I would use the opportunity to say that, with the forensic audit, when it was asked for in the past, my definition of forensic audit means there's, criminal activity.
That's mine as well.
Okay, suspicion of criminal activity, and that's why I didn't support the forensic audit at the time. If we are currently under a investigation and there are criminal activities evolved out of that investigation, I would be in 100% support of the forensic audit as quick as we could possibly get someone in. So I would just like to say that. Thank you, Mayor.
And I don't believe that I made the statement that we were under criminal investigation as far as any particular thing. I just said that I couldn't address any of the activities of the city manager because that is still under an active criminal investigation. That's what I said.
Okay, well, I guess to clarify is if that investigation finds some criminal activity, then I would definitely suggest that we have a forensic audit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
You can step up.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm Shelley Barry, 1721 Illinois Avenue. My house is still unlivable. I'm in constant contact with my contractors, and it is very frustrating. I'm sure everybody can relate to that. I just wanted to state something, though. This is more for the citizens of Lynnhaven than the commission.
Okay.
I attended the League of Women Voters
Forum?
event
Yes.
at Lynnhaven Elementary a couple weeks ago. And my concern, and I am not stating anything that was not on the platform of one of the people that is running for office.
Okay.
The platform, which is a big concern to me, is that it was stated by Mr. Aldridge that he wanted, if he had his way, he would have no apartments in Lynnhaven. He would rather that Lynnhaven be a single family community. And my concern, I'm just stating this for the benefit of the voters in Lynnhaven. I lived in an apartment. I own a home now. Sometimes you have to work yourself up to owning a home. There were elderly people leaving that meeting that night. A woman on a walker specifically stopped at our table and said, I live in an apartment. A question was posed at the end to all of the people on the panel that said, the person stated, I lived in an apartment before. Some of my neighbors were active military, some were seniors, some were veterans. What would you say to those people who what would your stance be to those people in apartments? And his response was, well, it wouldn't make me break out in hives, and it wouldn't make me totally sick, but I would rather that there not be apartments in Lynnhaven. So I just wanted my fellow citizens to know that. My granddaughter lives in an apartment right in Lynnhaven, one of the few that stood through this storm. And I am just concerned for the rebuild like everyone else is, and I wanted that stated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
I would just like to reassure the lady that just spoke that our comprehensive plan requires us to provide all sorts of housing for all of the citizens. So we're required by the state. We couldn't do that even if we wanted to.
Thank you. That's our city planner, Amanda Richard, who is speaking. Could you hear? Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? Yes.
Brad Young, 210 Lakeview Terrace. I received a phone call last week from a neighbor of my subdivision, and she was concerned about the downed trees in vacant lots in my subdivision. And she was demanding that I issue an order as HOA president to get rid of those downed trees. So I looked through the covenants, and I am not empowered to issue such an order. I can ask, I cannot demand. I am wondering, is there a provision from code enforcement to demand that owners of vacant lots that have trees that are down remove them? You know, bearing in mind that there was a fire over in Callaway and there were 660 acres that burned, and we've got a lot of fuel on the ground right now, and you know, my neighbor was raising a good point. The downed trees do have to go.
And I appreciate those comments. There are two options that we're looking at currently, and the first, of course, is code enforcement to clean up what we would call health hazards or safety hazards to the public. And I will take the blame that at this point, the 6 months, we are now just reaching 6 months. And back after the storm, when I was making basically the decisions for the city, I made the decision that we would not put a burden on the citizens with code enforcement violations until at least 6 months after the storm, because there was so much. If you can think back to what Lynnhaven looked like 6 months ago, and as far as I was concerned, we had items of code enforcement issues which had not been addressed before the storm, and so I was certainly not going to kick somebody while they were down to come after them with code enforcement. There are obviously people who are, sadly not going to probably return, maybe people who can't afford, to do what they need to do. So we're going to be looking individually at all of these different problems and areas around the city. It will take a little time, but we are going to start on that now with a lot more diligence. But I felt that 6 months was a fair time before we really started into finding people and that kind of thing. Another more positive is the being able to go on people's private property who need help to get items removed to their house, maybe demolished, maybe a tree on their house, things that they cannot personally afford to do. And FEMA is now offering us to have an option. There are applications at City Hall that people can sign and fill out for FEMA. It's a type of waiver. And then FEMA will be sending, once the city has collected all these applications, we'll be sending those into FEMA in bundles of probably 15 to 20 residences at a time. And their engineers and inspectors will come out to inspect property and find if those properties are eligible, and then they'll begin helping us. And then, of course, we have some other private organizations, such as the United Cajun Navy, some of the churches from other areas that are still also going to come in and give us help as we move along. So it is going to be a long process, but what I do is I look at the pictures of how this city looked 6 months ago, and I look at how it looks today, and I know we're making progress, and if we make this much progress in the next 6 months, we're going to be in a great place. So I hope that helps answer the question. Yes?
Brendan Aldrich, 3422 Cherry Ridge Road, candidate for seat 1. I just want to put for the record out there.
I don't think they can hear, Brandon, maybe to lift it up, you can lift it taller or take it off there, whatever will make it easier for you. Thank
I
you.
just want to make sure everybody understands, you know, when my wife and I got married, we had like $23 in the bank and lived in a 750 square foot apartment for over 2 years. Worked in a bank, worked at beach resorts. I don't look down on anyone. I still serve in my church people that have nothing. So I think, I don't want to be mischaracterized that I don't care about people, because that's the furthest thing from my heart. So I just want to put that statement out there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public commentary? Yes, come on up.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I really would like to express most of this to Mr. Russell.
Okay.
He apologized a number of times during his report this afternoon for taking so long, but I want to tell him thank you for listing all of the things that you took time this past 2 weeks to undertake for the citizens of Lynnhaven. It's very much appreciated. There are some folks, like Margot, like Judy, that are very involved in always reporting to us meetings, this, that, surveys that they are taking, and it's very much appreciated by the citizens that you've gone out there and done all these wonderful things for us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes. Is that Mr. Robitaille? If you'd like to speak in place, sir, you may, or you can come to the front.
Thank you, Madam. I got some things in my neighborhood. The highway pole, someone put a fence around it. I appreciate it. It's just a temporary fence, but whoever initiated that, I appreciate that. Spoke to the guys that put it up in the rain, told them we appreciate their effort. I have a question about the private property cleanup. Has it been decided whether or not we're going to put some kind of lien or something on the property, get repaid?
Get the what? I didn't hear what you said.
Are we going to put some kind of lien on that property to get repaid for cleaning it up?
I would let our city attorney address that, but to the best of my knowledge, that if code enforcement violations are not met by the citizen, I do believe there are some cures in effect in our ordinances, starting with fines and then maybe going forward with that. But I'll let the city attorney address to make sure I'm correct on that.
As far as code enforcement issues, our ordinance has set forth what the repercussions are if you were to violate an ordinance due to a nuisance and cause the city to incur additional expenses, which in part involves a lien. So that would be a fallback position for the city in any code enforcement violation issue.
That answer your question, okay, Mr. Robitaille?
Partially.
Okay, go ahead.
Last meeting I said I had faith that the brush on New Hampshire and the yard debris was going to be picked up. After 5 weeks, you're beginning to test that faith.
It's still there?
Is Pope Catholic?
Thank you, Mr. Robitaille. Yes, he is.
On houses on Main Avenue, I've complained about this before, and it was my very first warning about abandonment. 2 houses, both sides of the street on 19th Street at Main, totally abandoned. What a mess. What are we going to do?
I think I just spoke to that just a moment ago, Mr. Robitaille, that we're going to start being very diligent at this point about our code enforcement violations. I've been known to have a soft heart, but there is a point, you know, that law and order takes over. But we're only 6 months past the most horrific, catastrophic storm that ever hit.
I understand that, Madam Mayor, I appreciate all your effort. But what are we going to do? Are we going to force them to clean it up? Are we going to fine them? What are we going to do?
Probably all the above, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One more thing. In Thanksgiving, the city's Thanksgiving feast was really nice. At that time, I spoke with Commissioner Frank, who told me that his daughter's sorority was acquiring a whole bunch of trees. And before you leave, so where are the trees?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. It's a great question. Thank you very much. They are working on it. I actually just had lunch with her yesterday. She's actually the chair of of the not outreach, but social events. So with that, now she's going to the president, and they've talked about it, and they're still planning on doing it. We'll
Thank
need
you
trees
very
for a
much.
long, long time, but yeah, she still plans on doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robitaille. Go ahead, sir.
Brenton Epler,
Sir, would you come to that microphone if you can? Thank you.
Brenton Epler, and I have a question about, limbs, trees, and so forth on vacant lots. I don't have one on my lot on, where we live in, Lynnhaven. I've only been a resident of Lynnhaven for just over a year. However, I do have 5 acres in Fountain where I hope to be in a year from now, and I do have a couple of questions have been posed to me about clearing trees and so forth and so on. And I had a man come in and he said he would take and clear the ground for $13,000. However, he would leave everything on the ground after he had it cleared. I assume that I would have to have it towed away or so forth.
No, you assumed wrong there, sir, because if you hire a contractor to come in and do that clearing for you or demolition, that contractor is responsible to haul that away.
Okay, fine, but that's not the reason I'm asking.
Okay.
The reason I'm here as a citizen of Lynnhaven, where do I get telling people how to manage their property? Where is it in the code of Lynnhaven?
I'm not sure I understand your question, sir.
Where do we get our authority to demand things of citizens?
Sir, we have a city charter and we have a code of ordinances that this commission has voted on over the years since Lynnhaven has been established, and that's the law that we live by.
I understand that, but is there defined conditions of trees, bushes, and so forth? Or is it simply the opinion of the official who happens to be there at the time?
I believe there's been a mixture of the both in the history, depending on, I know that there are defined ordinances of what a yard should look like, but I'm sure that over the course of time, there have probably been officials who have made subjective decisions. I can't speak to that, but I would assume as many years as Lynnhaven has been here, that it hasn't always been objective.
So I would assume that it would then be decided in court.
Defer? I'm just deferring to the, well, okay, well, I'm just deferring to the city attorney because I don't want to get into uncharted ground and say the wrong things. I felt pretty solid until just then. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. The Code of Ordinances set forth a number of different items. In this particular instance, we're referring to what would likely be under nuisance. I could not tell you the number of the Code of Ordinances, but you can go on Muni Code and look them up. There are set definitions of what a nuisance is, and part of that would be the debris and damaged houses. They create fire hazards, they create hazards due to mice and insects and other things, snakes, all this. So it is defined in our Code of Ordinances, which well preceded me and preceded a lot of the folks on this commission, I'm sure. So that is there for you to read and review. Now, and the commission would have to, and the employees would follow the code.
No, I am simply interested as a citizen.
Okay.
And thank you very much in explaining that it's in the code as a subjective condition. And gives you jurisdiction.
I don't think that's what he said, sir.
Mayor, I never insinuated it was subjective. I don't know of any subjective treatment. There is definitions that are throughout the code which addresses a nuisance, among other things, but that's just one item that comes to my mind sitting here. There are clear definitions set forth. There's a prescription of rules for the city to enforce those rules, and as far as I'm aware, there's been no violation of that on the city's part.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Last chance? Okay, moving on then to item number 7. This is the public hearing. The time is now 4:57 p.m. and this public hearing is open. And this will be the final reading of ordinance number 1074, which is a small-scale future land use map amendment. mixed use to commercial, and there will be no action required on this item until item number 9. And if, Ms. Gaynor, if you would please read the ordinance 1074.
Sure, Mayor. An ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes of a land use change from mixed use to commercial for an approximate 1.2 acres of property located on the corner of West 13th Street and Florida Avenue. Parcel numbers 10101-00-000, 10102-000-000, and 10103-000-000 in the city of Lynnhaven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this proposed land use change? Yes, Mr. Walker? Is that Mrs. Walker? I'm sorry, I just saw the hand.
Walk 1106 Michigan Avenue. I thought I heard when you first read it that you were saying you would change it from mixed use to commercial. According to the paperwork that Mr. Johnson filled out, I believe this is filled out by him or by Amanda, the adjacent existing usage presently, north single family, east single family, west single family, and south commercial. Now, I don't see the reason, I don't think that a side street in Lynnhaven should have gravel trucks, dirt trucks, etc. going through their streets day and night. I think it's an inappropriate use for those parcels there because it's residential. Don't appreciate that, even though I don't live over there.
Thank you. I think I read something in, I was thinking that what I read on that parcel of land was mixed use on all sides. Did I read it incorrectly? I'll ask Amanda.
Adjacent future land use is mixed use, but right now it's single family, commercial, single family, single family.
May I let City Planner address just for a moment, just to clarify? I need it clarified to me then. Thank you.
Yes, what Mrs. Walker is looking at is what the property is actually being used for right now. So what is on that property. What the board, what the commission, and what the city is supposed to be looking at when it's a request for a land use change, future land use map amendment, is what the land uses are surrounding the property. And to the north, this property is asking for commercial and is currently mixed use. To the north is mixed use, to the south is commercial, to the east is mixed use, and to the west is mixed use.
That's what I thought I read, so tell me where the single dwelling is coming from.
The single dwelling is on one of those mixed use properties, but it's actually mixed use, so even though it's being used as a house now, if that house were damaged in a storm, I don't know its current condition, but somebody could open a business in there, they could open a retail store in there tomorrow.
Okay.
Because it's allowable under mixed use.
Okay, I'm glad I read it correctly then. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Mr. Walker.
Oh, sorry.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Other than mixed use and all this configuration, that's mostly a residential area. And it backs up to 390, and 390 is going to be closed. That access is going to be closed off. Okay. Isn't there an ordinance that says that no delivery trucks can be used on residential roads in the city of Lynnhaven?
I am not familiar with the ordinance that there is, Mr. Walker.
I use that the fact that because we don't see delivery trucks on Pennsylvania, Michigan Avenue delivering soda and that stuff. Exactly. And I'm pretty sure if the city attorney would like to look into that, that there is an ordinance that says that we don't allow delivery trucks, and I don't mean a post office and that stuff. I know we allow the post office to do a lot of things, but I'm pretty sure, and I do not see any delivery trucks on residential streets.
I have plenty on mine. I'm not defending, I'm
Well,
just
maybe-
saying, I have the city sludge truck that goes by every morning at my house. Thank you.
Well, that's the city's truck. City gets away with a few
It's
things.
a delivery.
City gets away with a few things, but that is a residential area, and it
Yes,
looks-
sir, one of the oldest.
And it doesn't look right to impose that on it. If I'm incorrect on that, I apologize.
And I'll let
but-
city attorney, I'll defer to him, but I don't think there is an ordinance that says that, because I think I would have found it in all the complaints I've made about Tennessee Avenue. I've looked at every possible ordinance I could find. And I would also like to make the comment, maybe I'll hold that comment until the public hearing is over, because there may be more from the public. Ms. Richard? Oh, I know what my comment was. It was that the planning board unanimously approved this request, and I'm always, as the mayor, and I think maybe the other commissioners feel the same way, when we have a citizens board like the planning board of people who are interested in the community and they make a unanimous recommendation, I try to listen to them, because otherwise, why would we have them? That's just sort of my take on it. So I'll defer now to Amanda Richard.
This, a land use map amendment is governed by the state. There are certain things that at this stage the commission should look at and certain things that should not be taken into consideration. What should be looked at is the compatibility with the surrounding land uses. The commission at this point shouldn't even be thinking about what might possibly be put on that parcel, because the person could change the land use and then sell it. So the requirements are that the city looks at the surrounding land uses for compatibility, and if the commission decides to vote no, to vote against it, they have to record a reason as to why, because then if it's challenged, the challenge will go to the state and the city will have to justify their decision.
Thank you. Commissioner Friend.
Just while you're up, please, Ms. Amanda, I just have a quick, if you could just clarify, because I know you and I have talked about this in length, and I agree, we're just supposed to look, does this land use work here? Could you just give us a quick definition between mixed use, which is currently mixed use, and commercial?
Yes, so mixed use allows for lower intensity type retail and commercial, so it wouldn't allow for like a big box store, or maybe there are other things which are allowable under commercial. I think I have my ELDC if you want me to go through the table, but there are certain things that are allowed in commercial which are not allowed in mixed use. Yes. If this did get its land use change, if anybody wanted to change what was on that site, so if they want to have a business on that site, that would have to come to you as a development order. They wouldn't be able to just go ahead and do whatever it was they wanted. There would have to be a development order come to you, because it would be a change of use, and you don't have to allow a development order.
And Mayor, if I could just follow up.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Sometimes the reason this gets a little confusing, because on the application, people will put on the application their intent, but we're only supposed to look at the actual land use at the time. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
And I appreciate your comments, Ms. Richards, and we'll take that into consideration, but I do have one question, and it probably won't affect my decision today.
No, they're gonna show good parts of the roof. And then EPCI signs off on them. They don't even do drive-by. Don't even do drive-by. The guy that inspected, that his initials were on my inspection that said on site, he said, I don't even get up on roofs, I'm disabled. So what's the qualification of EPCI inspectors when they can't even get up on the roof? They can't even get up on the roof.
I thank you.
We're getting ripped off.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Mr. Walker?
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Long ago, we got away from being a small city. Long ago, we got away from being citizens. Long ago, when we outsourced all these things that were normal services to us.
I'm not saying we for me. Sorry. Keep going. Okay.
We outsourced them, okay? We absolved ourselves of control. We had a building inspector, and he was under the control of, and I say this, he was under the control of the city manager. when we undertook the renovations of Roberts Hall, I have never been so persecuted by our building inspector and our city manager in any project that I ever undertook. I was lucky when we undertook the library that we didn't have that city manager and we didn't have that building inspector, which was our own. I just want to not warn you, but tell you, when you get your city in charge of your own building inspector, your own attorney, your own audit company, whatever it is, you gotta watch out. Because if he's under the control of a dictator, you're gonna get negative results to the citizens. I agree with this whole thing about that company, because I've tried to get permits and tried to get inspections, and I can't get them. And I understand the citizens here, and I agree, we should get our own, but be careful if you put them under the control of a dictator.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Brad?
Brad Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace. I recently had my roof inspected. The roof was finished in February, and I was waiting for the inspection and waiting for the inspection. And finally I went down to the EPCI office and I said, "Where's my inspection?" And the response was, "Well, it hasn't been ordered." "Well, can I order it?" "No, you cannot order it. It has to be ordered by the roofing contractor." Okay, I know how to handle that. So then I got a hold of the roofing contractor and said, "Could you please order the roof inspection?" She said, "Sure, we'll do that." And about a week later, I happen to be sitting at the table and I see a truck that I don't recognize. Guy walks up, gets out, and he goes to the window in my house, and there's a pouch there that has 3 photos. It has the letter of commencement or commencement notice, and it has the Lynnhaven building permit. He looks at those, he looks at the roof, he looks at the pictures, puts a little green sticker on with his initials and a date. It's now approved. Now, what was on those 3 pictures? Well, there was 2 pictures of sheets of plywood with nails in them, and 1 picture of underlayment. Did he go up on the roof? No. Did he challenge any of the work that he saw up there? No. I think I got a good roof, but I sure don't know it from EPCI's response to the sudden increase in demand. Now let me contrast that with how I was told they handled it down in Naples, where they also had a hurricane. They also had a big increase in the need for inspection services. The inspector requested that the foreman for the roofing crew be there for the inspection. Could you please remove the shingles and the underlayment in that area, a randomly chosen area, about 3 by 3 feet? Could you please remove the shingles in that area so I can see the flashing? Can you please remove the shingles in this other area so I can see the underlayment? And then she goes up on the roof. It was a woman. She goes up on the roof. She's got a tape measure. She's got a magnifying glass. She's got a camera. And she's documenting everything that she's looking at. And she's measuring the distance between nails. So she knows that it was re-nailed correctly. She chose those areas because they are places where you can cut corners. And I would have every confidence that that inspection was done properly. So I don't have a problem with privatizing inspection services. I do have a problem, a major problem, with the corner cutting that's going on with EPCI in the response to this big demand for their services.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments? Yes. And keep in mind the 3-minute limit on your, I think those were well put points, but try to keep your comments within the 3 minutes if you can, please.
Mayor Anderson, commissioners, just want to throw something else in that's a little bit different. you're talking about terminating a contractor, and you're terminating for cause. And all these stories are great, but if you start to do that, you're gonna have to get a lot of signed statements, or the lawyer's gonna tell you you're gonna lose in litigation, or end up paying the balance of whatever you contracted for.
I think this is just a discussion right now, but I appreciate that.
I understand, but I'm saying that if you wanna start building a case, you need to start getting some signed statements from these people about what happened, because that's what the judge is gonna see. And I know from real hardcore experience that they'll throw you out if you just because you say so won't get it. I'll put it that way. So you gotta have some documentation. Sounds like a lot of people got a case, so that's my only suggestion from having been in the courtroom.
I appreciate that, sir. Is there anyone else? Anyone else from the board? Is there a motion concerning this item?
I would like to entertain a motion, yes. I'd
Okay.
like to make a motion that, we either go, I would like to make a motion that we, hire our own building department and our own inspector. I feel like the figures back it up, and, so I'll make that motion.
Mayor.
I'm coming there. I'm coming there. Is there a second to that motion? I just wanted to test the waters. At this time, I would like to ask for Adam Albritton, who is our city attorney, to comment on what possible cures there would be should this commission decide to take this to another agenda item. If we wanted to discuss it further, Commissioner Tender made a motion without a second, so obviously it didn't go that far. I have seen that happen before on this board, actually, Commissioner Tender, but I think right now what everybody on the board is probably waiting for is some legal advice before anyone would step out to make that second motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Certainly it's within the purview of the city of Lynnhaven to do this in-house, but at this time you're under a contract between Lynnhaven and the EPCI, a contract I have not seen. My guess is in addition to termination clauses, terms of the contract, there's probably some default language which should be looked at as well. EPCI, I don't know if they've received any written notice. I'm not aware of whether Ms. Gaynor was able to finish her feasibility. So I think it would be premature at this point, because what I would hate to see is that the city breach the contractual terms and have to pay out the balance of the contract prematurely.
And I would, what I would like to comment as well on your comments is that to the best of my knowledge, when I brought this subject up before, I believe the commission renewed a 3-year contract with them is what they did, if I'm remembering correctly. And that was much to my dismay. But anyway, we will let you look at the contract and maybe someone will bring it up again or not. We'll see. Commissioner Russell, please. Go ahead.
If I could, I'd like to make a motion that we ask I'd like to make a motion that we direct the city attorney to review the contract and see what clauses required for us to terminate the contract. As well as I would like to direct the department head, Ms. Richards, to review the process with her department and determine whether her department feels like this is the appropriate action that her department would like us to get.
Okay, is there a second?
I would second that.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I've already forgot what I was gonna say.
Want to think on the second?
Something that he said and I thought, oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, no, I just second that.
Okay, is there any discussion from the public? Yes, ma'am. Remember to keep it at 3 minutes. Thank you, thank you.
Jared Barker, 1709 Rhett Place. So what would our, going forward, our complaint be against EPCI? Do we go to the Department of Regulation and file a formal complaint with them about their lack of inspecting?
I don't know the answer to that. I would think that it would be some sort of legal, you may ask your attorney what you should do.
Okay.
Mayor,
I'll let our attorney comment in general. How about that?
Okay.
Mayor, if I may.
Could I go to the city attorney first?
I would ask that you submit your complaint to the city so that the city can be made aware of the issue. As far as any other outside resources, that would be within your purview, and since I represent the city, I couldn't advise you on that, but there are obviously options available to you outside the city, but I would ask that you send an email or a letter or something of that nature so that the city can document this.
Would that be to the city manager, would that be your recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes,
to the
because
city
I,
manager.
not only did I have a personal inspection, but I also had my insurance company send out a professional engineer that concurred with the original inspection.
And thank you for coming forward. Commissioner Russell.
Mayor, if I may, just for your record, the state of Florida licensed building officials, they have to be licensed through the state. So you have recourse with the state BPR as well to file complaints with them too. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So, there's been a motion, that the city attorney would look further into the contract to see what those terms are and what our recourses are. And that the second part of the motion, if I understand correctly, was that, our city planner, Amanda Richard, would look into the general, opinions of those who work in the, permitting and building, inspection departments and see what the feeling is among city employees. And that's been seconded, is that correct? Okay.
May I say something?
Yes.
I remembered what I was going to say.
Okay.
I just wanted everybody to know that I brought this to the foreground because I have met with the past city manager and about this issue. And at that time, he told me that we had to give a 3 or 6 month notice to ECPI to break our contract with them. But I don't know that. I'm just telling you what I was told. So.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so that motion has been approved. We'll go to item number 12, the first reading of ordinance number 1075, amendments to the City of Lynnhaven Land Development Code. If you could read that, please, Ms. Gaynor, 1075.
An ordinance by the City of Lynnhaven, Florida, amending section 1.07.00 of the Unified Land Development Code to amend the definitions and to repeal sections 3.01.00 flood damage prevention regulations, to adopt a new section 3.01.00 flood damage prevention regulations, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator, to adopt procedures and criteria for development in flood hazard areas, amending section 9.02.04, specific requirements for variances in flood hazard areas, amending section 10.00.02, development permits and local development orders, amending section 10.01.02, general requirements for all applications, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for codification and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you. This is a first reading that does not require action, but if there are questions or discussion, please let those be known from the board. There are none. Any from the public? There are none. So we'll move on to item number 13, which is the first reading of ordinance number 1076. This is amending the City of Lynnhaven Code of Ordinances.
Ordinance number 1076, an ordinance by the City of Lynnhaven, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinance, Chapter 14, Buildings and Building Regulations, to adopt technical amendments to the Florida Building Code, and for other purposes, providing for applicable availability and effective date.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions on this ordinance? Again, it's a first reading requiring no action. Any from the public? There appears to be none. So we'll move on to item number 14. We're looking at the approval of a development order for Brock Pest Control, parcel number 11573004000. This is a quasi-judicial public hearing which will require the attorney to swear in those people involved, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd first ask for any ex parte communication by the commission.
The mayor's had none.
I've had none.
I've had that.
I've had none.
And I've had none.
Hearing none, I'd ask that all those that intend to give testimony regarding this matter, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth? Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is a request for a development order approval to construct a 3,000 square foot warehouse, a 1,500 square foot office, and a 4,500 square foot future building, along with required supporting infrastructure on the 3.945 acre parcel located on the south side of Aberdeen Parkway, 510 feet east of the intersection of County Road 389 and Aberdeen Parkway, parcel number 11573-004-000. And this would be a Brock Pest Control Annex. The development order application submittal has been reviewed by city staff and also by our contracted engineer and has found to be in compliance with City of Lynnhaven Unified Land Development Code and state requirements.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion or questions from the board?
Yes, ma'am, if I may just ask.
Yes.
Aberdeen, is that where tree, is that intersection right there?
Yes.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
in our industrial area. Any other questions from the board? Any from the public? Okay, Ms. Gaynor, if you please call the roll.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so it stands approved. I'm glad to see them continuing to grow. And item number 15, discussion and possible action regarding the payback of the half-cent sales tax. And this is something I brought forward last time and asked to be placed on the agenda. And just to briefly give an explanation of what this is, we, as the city, borrowed $10 million against the half-cent sales tax, which we received from the state, so that we could begin construction of roads in our city at the current interest rates, which were very low at that time. They were, I believe they were 2.34, but I don't have it in front of me, but very low interest rates. And so we were able to pave 23 miles of roads in a year in Lynnhaven and pay for it with the half-cent sales tax. The disagreement was how it was to be paid back, and this was sort of a city manager and mayor disagreement, and I'm not sure who on the board agreed or disagreed, but the payment return to the bank is sort of like a 30-year mortgage on a house, and we are paying back $238,000 every 6 months and paying a tremendous amount of interest yearly to the bank. My proposal was to the city manager and is to the board now that as we receive this monthly money from the state, which is somewhere usually in the neighborhood of $200,000 a month. Sometimes it's 138, sometimes it's 204, sometimes it's 194. But my proposal is whatever amount of money comes into Lynnhaven from the state on this half-cent sale, or actually it's divided by the county, the half-cent sales tax, that we would immediately sweep that amount to the bank and pay down our debt. We cannot use that money for anything else other than paving roads and infrastructure. There's no need to keep it in the city coffers, earning this much interest when we're paying out the other interest. So that's what I'm proposing, that we would, and correct me, city attorney, if I'm using the wrong term, but I wanted to look at different terms. I don't know if that will, it may entail us having to, I don't know what it will entail as far as the commission were to go forward with the bank as having to refinance it, or if we can just leave it as it is and then just pay the debt down quickly would be the cheaper way. I'm not sure, but I'll let you take a shot at that. But that's what I'd like to see. It's the term is called a sweep account. It just means you sweep that money toward the debt and take care of it as it comes in.
Mayor, it sounds like currently the city of Lynnhaven has agreed to one set of terms, and you're proposing potentially modifying those terms to something else.
Yes.
So the term I would select would be a modification of the loan, discussing with the loan provider a modification of the terms of the loan agreement.
And would the person to do that, the acting city manager is the chief financial officer of the city, the mayor is the treasurer. Would that be a joint discussion that we could have, or would we send, who would be the emissary for this in your?
Without the commission selecting, I would say that the city manager would be, but obviously this commission can designate yourself or a very active individuals that could go with respect to the Florida Sunshine Laws.
Okay, well, I can't make a motion, but my thought on this would be that we would have our acting city manager to be the person to initiate, and then have a meeting set up with our bank, and then I would like to be present, is what I would like in the motion. Or if you can't do it that way, do it whatever way would suit the board, but I just don't want to see, in my opinion, I don't want to see the city continue to pay this interest and hold that money when we could just be paying it back. So I would invite your comments or discussion at this time.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion at this time, the city manager along with yourself sit down with the bank to look at our options and modify the loan.
Is there a second? Thank you very much. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
I might not have the best memory in town, but I thought when we took that out, the idea was that we were going to pay it back with these funds. Am I incorrect on that?
Well, no, you're not incorrect, and we are paying it back with these funds, but what's been happening is that we've been paying it back every 6 months, only about $238,000 every month. It's like a payment at very high interest rates, instead of just, as the money comes in, just paying back whatever we get in and taking that debt right on down.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the public? Yes.
Brad Young, 210 Lakeview Terrace. First, an observation. I've never met a bank that would not take money, especially when the money is being loaned out at a below market interest rate. If anything, they should be offering you a discount to get the money paid back earlier. And if you don't get the discount, I wouldn't want to pay it back. Surely there are other uses, there are other roads that need to get paid, there are other permitted uses of those funds we can take advantage of.
That is exactly what the money's for, paving roads. That's it, and infrastructure.
Are they all done?
No, they're not.
Then
We're on the same page. We're on the same page.
I wouldn't pay the loan back. I'd use the extra revenue to pave more roads.
Well, in a sweep account situation, as you're paying it back, you're paying your debt down, your interest is going down, and you're getting that more money. Never mind, we'll talk about it later. We can talk about it later. Are there other comments? Okay, is there, Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. It's approved. Thank you. Item number 16 is approval to host a monthly Lynnhaven Spay Day/Shot Clinic. This was brought to the agenda by our Community Services Department Head, David Horton. Would you like to speak to that, Mr. Horton?
I gave all y'all a sheet of the breakdown of what we can make off of this. Back in March 16th, we held a clinic at the Sheffield Park, and the lady that did it actually made about $8,000 that day. And the sad part is it was a rainy day, and about 300 people walked away. So we're looking at throwing one every other month, because it takes 5 weeks to get approved by the state to actually do this. The only thing that won't be done, we won't spay. It'll just be a shot,
Okay.
a vaccination shot day. Rabies, down on the bottom, it'll show you the 4 shots we'll be providing for that day.
Okay.
And then breaks down each time we do it, we lose $500 because we have to pay $500 for the vet to come out. You have to have a vet on hand to do rabies. But other than that, it's clear profit.
Does anyone on the board have questions for Mr. Horton?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I recently went to Springfield to have a cat spayed and everything. So I just want to clarify. So if somebody comes, they want a rabies shot, what's it going to cost them?
$10.
It's going to cost them $10.
All shots are $10.
And they only charge us $2? $204?
We only pay $204 for the vaccination. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I have one more. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead.
I want to make sure I understand. How many Lynnhaven employees do we have to have present for this?
It will take my whole animal control staff, me, and my sports director under me. It'll take about 6 of us.
And that's on a Saturday?
It'll be on on Saturday, that way we can run, so people don't leave us.
And will that be the time and a half?
No, that will be adjusted where they will be off during the week to work Saturday.
I was only asking because I'm trying to see if the cost really makes us any
I would
money.
adjust their schedule, so each one of them, if I had the 3 from there, they would take off either Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, that way they would work Saturday. So it would be no extra cost to the city on overtime.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board?
Mayor, if I may,
Please.
if I'm reading this correctly, you're looking at netting somewhere 9,000 and above per clinic. Is that the way I'm reading this?
If we do 1,600 shots.
If you do 1,600, so you're gonna net, you're looking at net, not including employee.
Not including employee, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, so if we did 1,600 shots in one day, we would net $10,000.
Thank you.
I have one more question, if I may.
Go ahead.
And those funds that you collect, will they go in the general fund?
That would be.
Yes, they would.
They would go in the general fund.
Yes.
So they wouldn't stay in your department?
No, they would go into the general fund.
Okay, thank
Mayor,
you.
if I may,
Yes, please.
I would really like to see the commission consider, after offsetting the cost, that it stay in the animal control, to help, the cost of the animal controls that we have now. It's just a recommendation, and I don't, it's not something that I'm saying I'm gonna make a motion, but I
Sure.
would like the commission to consider that.
Okay. Other comments or discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, I would
Please.
just say when I first read this, I thought it said Lynnhaven Spa Day. And so I'm in favor of that as well. Sorry.
Are there other?
That's what we got on our mind. We out. We vote for a spa day.
Are there other comments? Okay, then, I think we're ready for a motion. So there's a motion, that we would go ahead with, a monthly Lynnhaven shot clinic. We're crossing out the word spay, right? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so there's been a motion, and a second that we would host a Lynnhaven, shot clinic. Any further discussion from the board?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I just have to say, I wish I would have asked this prematurely, and I don't think, David, you have the answer to this question. But I just want to make sure that with the salaries involved of these 6 individuals, how much are we actually going to make for the city?
Okay, go ahead, David.
You know, if you have any idea.
With their salaries involved?
In yours.
I wouldn't know that.
Okay.
Not right off my head. I would have to go look at each one.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's just like it would be a normal day of work. We would be paying them normal if they were working Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay.
So it's not a different day. But we do want to go every other month. We don't want to go every month.
Okay, so let me.
Because it takes 5 weeks to get approved, so we want to test it the first time, and if it does good, we want to go every other month.
Okay.
To try and get it to see how it will go.
Thank you.
I think probably, if I may put words in Commissioner Tender's mouth, what she might be asking is, what do those employees normally do that you would have doing this? Like,
They're normally on call, but they're running dog, got the dog,
Okay.
get the dog.
so they're working with the animals?
They're working with the animals.
Okay.
They're either cleaning the animal shelter, going out on calls, doing their normal job. That would just be tied up with us, but if they get a call, we would have to go and get the call.
Okay,
So
thank
it'd be a normal day for them.
Thank you. Mayor, may I just say one more comment?
Yes.
I agree totally with Commissioner Russell on this. I've always felt that departments that are raising funds, those departments should maintain those funds. And I first ran into this with the library on their sale of books, and then found out they didn't even get to use those funds to purchase more books with the sale that they were having. They just go in the general fund. That means they can be used anywhere. And so I'd like for us in the future to entertain that idea too. With things like this, I think the fund should stay in the department.
With that said, I believe Commissioner Friend made the motion. Would you consider amending the motion, or do you want to leave it as it is?
No, ma'am, I'll amend it because I think I have to anyway, if David's asking for every other month, because it says
Okay.
monthly. So I would amend my motion to say that we accept this every other month, and that the money raised from this would go and stay in the department.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
So there's a motion and a second, and any comment from the public? Ms. Gainer, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. Stands approved. We're moving on to item 17. I'm going to make a new motion. We don't have more than 10 items on it. It's getting long, isn't it? Item number 17, discussion of the acquisition for the new city manager, and city attorney has a report.
Thank you, Mayor. At the last meeting, this commission had directed that I, along with city staff, bring back options for the city and sourcing for the next city manager. Essentially, in reviewing the Florida statutes and the city charter, the city commission has broad discretion in the selection process, and in a letter which I directed to all commission members, I delineate two basic options. One is the city commission selection process, which I'm sure this commission is familiar with. Essentially, that would require an advertising, and I suggest advertising regionally and nationally through different organizations in my letter. Creating a selection process, narrowing down the applications that come in through interviews and background checks, and then an ultimate selection. Option number 2 that the city could entertain would be engaging an executive search firm. This would require an RFP or RFQ for solicitations for the search firm. You would pick a professional firm that would handle something similar to this. They would aid the city in the procurement of applications for this position. Fairly obviously, executive search firm would come at a significantly more increased cost than the city commission handling it in-house. There would be, even if you go in-house, some advertising costs if my suggestions follow as far as advertising with the Florida League of Cities, Florida City and County Management Association, and International City County Management Association, but comparatively those would be nominal.
Okay, are there questions for the city attorney, or is there a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion that we go with option 1 as soon as possible.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second that the commission would go forward with option 1 for the acquisition of the new city manager, which means it would be an in-house search rather than paying for professional service to do that for us. Is there any questions or discussions from the board?
Mayor, I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm familiar with the executive search, and the only drawback to that, and that's why I said what I did, was that they hand choose the few people that they want to throw in the pot, so to speak. And I feel like we could be, narrowing our pool of people. Thank you.
Thank you. And this will be an appropriate time for me to throw out my thoughts on it because of the fact that I can't discuss this with the other commissioners except at this table. But I've made it pretty plain because I did put an article in the paper, and it is public knowledge that I have started a petition to get 10% of the elected, or the registered voters rather, in Lynnhaven to entertain the possibility of changing our charter, amending it to bring forward a strong mayor council type government, where you would have an elected mayor making those financial decisions and other important decisions for the city that the voters could essentially fire themselves at the end of the term, or if it was a really severe deal, you could even ask for impeachment. If you have a city manager, what can happen is that it takes 3 votes of the commission to hire or fire, so you could be looking at 2 full election cycles to be able to get rid of a manager that the public really didn't like. It may sound a little harsh, but I would say that as you put out these resumes, requests across the country, you're going to get people who are looking to come from maybe the Midwest or some undesirable location to live here on the beach would be one reason they would come. And number 2, most city managers who are coming from another area have lost their job from their commission because of some reason, good or bad. It may have been that they weren't really good at what they did, or it may have just been that the commission didn't like them. So I would hope that maybe we could entertain this, and so when you hear me vote no on everything about acquiring a city manager, that's why. And not because of a power grab or because this mayor wants to be in charge. I'm talking about for the duration of our city, looking ahead at future mayors. This would attract people to run for mayor who were interested in really doing the job, really being in the office all the time, really being available to employees, really being available to the residents. Maybe someone who's from here, maybe someone who had been here a long time that has a vested interest in the city. And after the storm, there were several weeks where I did have that position, and I will tell you, whether I were the mayor or whether anyone was the mayor, do you really want someone from anywhere that maybe has been here 6 months, if something happens, making those kinds of crucial decisions, or do you want someone you've elected? I would make the comparison to the school board the school board superintendent. He is an elected person. He controls that budget. He makes major decisions about the school district. He does not have a vote, but he does make major decisions. He is controlled by that board. They do have power over his decisions if they don't like them. So look at it and think about it and know that I'm not asking for just this mayor, but I'm asking for the future of Lynnhaven. Do you really want to continue this process of every 2 or 3 years, something with a city manager, or do you want someone that you elect handling the business of the city? So that would be the question, and that's why I'm saying no every time, so don't think I'm being negative. It's just a different opinion, so I'll leave it at that.
Mayor, may I?
Yes.
While I, and I think you're aware, I fundamentally disagree with the concept.
Which doesn't surprise me at all. Go ahead.
And I want you to understand that I fully respect you, and I'm willing to listen to the electorate. I have no problem making a motion to table this for 2 weeks to give you time to get the signatures.
Oh, that's okay. You can go ahead. We can go ahead with the business. I'm just telling you why I'm voting no.
Okay,
I have no problem.
Okay,
No.
well, I just want you to know that at the end of the day, I fully believe the electorate makes the decision. You know,
Absolutely.
If you get the signatures and the voters vote that that's the way they want it, then that's the way we proceed. I personally don't think that's, the way we should go, but if the voters tell me that's what they want, I'm willing to listen to them.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think the process needs to go on. I'm going to be working actively on collecting signatures and moving toward getting a referendum, but at the same time, I may not be successful. I'm just asking people. I don't know what they want. So I think you should go ahead with the process, and then if we'll see what happens.
Mayor, may I say something?
Sure.
What's going to happen if we go ahead with this process and we start getting applications? It seems, and then you do reach the amount of votes that, or the signatures, then what are we gonna, we just have to call these people back and tell them that we've changed our mind, so to speak? That is.
I would think that's a possibility, but certainly not a certainty.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Any from the public before we, yes.
Jerry Parker, 1709 Red Place. I want to preface this by saying I support you 100%, but this is where my reserve comes. We have a strong mayor, that's a great thing, but after you, and there is going to be after you, what if we don't have that same strong mayor? Then that's where my reservation comes in.
You vote them out.
And that's what we need to do. So, but you've done an excellent job, and I think you have proved to this community your dedication to this city.
You're very kind. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Sir, sorry. Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. This subject is very, very apparent with me, and I've had many conversations with citizens over it. The problem is this: our city managed government went astray when we had not the previous, the one before that, who took over, and when the city had a little problem, and he tried to run it like he wanted it. Therefore, you got away from the checks and balances of city managed government. I did a canvass of city managed government just like you did. And I found out how the proper way to do it is and how not the way to do it is. When you release control of everything that the elected people want you to do to the city manager, you have a problem if that city manager goes astray. I mentioned the term dictator before. That's what happens. In our city manager, in the time that I've been raised in this city, I watched what he did. And he took control of everything. Everything. He was city clerk. He was in charge of the police. He was in charge of the fire department. He was in charge of the money. He was in charge of every branch. He removed all the branch directors, took complete control of it. The big thing is he was in charge of the money. If you're in charge of the money, you have control. A correct city-managed government that you can trust, having the clerk in charge, city manager underneath the clerk, responsible, gives you checks and balances. Clerk is responsible to the commissioners. City manager is responsible to the clerk. You have to have your trust in that clerk who you hire. You have to also have, if you want to go with your way of doing it, have your trust in the elected officials. You have to grin and bear if it's a bad elected official. You have to grin and bear if you have to fire your city manager. It's very easy to fire a city manager. It's difficult to recall a commissioner. So it should be brought back to the proper way, thought out. And let me add one little thing,
You're at your time.
When we sat to meet with the decision to have Mr. Schubert, I'll use the name, when he was chosen, and we reviewed it, the citizens met with all the applicants. I did not see that with Mr. White. I didn't see that, what you're planning in the future here. We had a chance to talk with that individual. You had a chance to talk to him. We made our decisions, and we came.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Walker. I think they were all good ones.
If we correct it, do it the correct way.
Thank you. Was there anyone else? I think that's it. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Walker, at the end of the day, the buck stops here. The commission has two employees. That's the city manager and the city attorney. If they're not doing their job properly, and your commission doesn't take care of that problem, the buck stops here. So if you have a problem with those two employees, you come to us, and if we don't do what you want us to do, you vote us out. And that's the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak, public or the commission? Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Ms. Gainer, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
No. And the motion stands approved. So we will be using option number 1 to begin the selection process for a city manager at this time. Moving on to item number 18. This is the discussion and possible action regarding the extension of the debris haulers contract. Could we have an explanation there, Ms. Gainer, please?
Mayor Anderson, right now, we're in the process of really trying to clean up as many streets as we possibly can with Bobby Skies. But there will come a time when we go to the waterways, to the big ditches, that we will need the haulers to come in and help us clean out some of those places. That their contracts are already in place, but those contracts will end at the first part of May. And so those contractors that are already in place, we just need an extension until we get back the final approval from FEMA for us to put out the new haulers contract, or bid, excuse me.
Okay, can we clarify? So our two haulers are Ashbrit and Crowder Gulf.
Crowder Gulf.
So we are wanting to extend their contracts until
we put out the new bid for the haulers that will go out once we receive it back from FEMA.
Okay, so how long will we be extending this contract?
Probably until July, because it'll take it, when we put out the new contract for haulers, we have to advertise it for 30 days. And then we will do the selection. Commission has to approve those contractors. So we're probably looking at July.
So if we extend, if we extend this contract, if I may, for Ashbrit and Crowder Gulf, does that mean that they're going to be working in the city until July?
Only if we deploy them. That's just so whether or not we
could deploy them.
Yes, ma'am. We
Okay.
could. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission or a motion?
I move that we approve it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions from the board?
Yes, Mayor. If I may.
Go ahead, please.
I'd just like to ask the attorney, does the current contract with the contractor, does it allow for the extension? Or are we gonna have to do a new contract?
We won't have to do a new a new contract. I agree with the mayor, we should limit it to 10 topics. With that being said, Commissioner Friend, we will not have to do a new contract. What I would suggest and work with the city manager on is that we draft a extension, it sounds like approximately 60 days, and if you just let me use that general term for now, 60-day extension, which I'll run past FEMA as well, explain the situation, explain the dire need that we have. I believe one of the big intentions of using these two contractors in the near future is for the cleaning of the ditches and right-of-ways that are collecting stormwater and not dispersing that stormwater properly. And thereafter, we would execute the 90-day or 60-day extension. Hopefully, in the meantime, we will hear back from the FEMA and federal and state folks regarding the release of the RFP for new contracts for the same position, because the original contracts we're operating under cannot be extended beyond what we're talking about, a nominal amount.
And just to clarify that this would be on an as-needed basis, that we would call for them even though this is extended, is that correct?
Correct, Mayor. It would revert back to the original contracts, and my understanding of the original contracts, although I don't have in front of me, is that we get to dictate when, where, and how much volume of work they get to receive.
Thank you. So there's been a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Any from the public? Okay, Ms. Gaynor, please call the roll.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, stands approved. And we're at item number 19, and that is adjournment. Thank you for staying with us. Have a nice evening.